We just saw Exodus, Gods and Kings, and on this show I take my friends, we go see a movie, we review it in the car, and then we have a discussion. The review part is spoiler free, so if you're on the fence, haven't seen the movie yet, and want to know if this is for you, watch the review. If you've already seen the movie, or don't care to, and just want to know everything that we thought, watch the entire thing. We'll get into spoilers in the second part. So, Exodus, Gods and Kings. This is essentially the Ten Commandments, but made by Ridley Scott. Christian Bale is Moses. And Ridley Scott is a really, a very visual filmmaker. There were some things that were done here that were really interesting. It's a 2-hour and 22-minute movie. So if you're up for that, if you're up for like an epic length movie, an epic story, kind of like that, I think it's worth seeing. For me, it kind of drags at the end, or the last 45 minutes to an hour just really seems long. Part of that is because of it's just such a long movie, but part of that's also the subject matter, which is kind of a front-loaded story. The whole, or middle-loaded even, if you want to, the plagues are the fun part of it, I guess, from a movie perspective, that's the fun part to watch, the interesting part to watch. Unless they do something interesting with the drama, or they do something, with the acting and all that sort of stuff. So, to me, it felt like they made it long because the Ten Commandments are long, or because it's supposed to be this big epic story. But if there weren't the Ten Commandments to kind of compare it to, I would say that this was overly long. They just sort of dragged it out too much. There's a lot of stuff that I liked. I really liked the way that it didn't do the repetition style of the plagues, meaning that Moses doesn't go to the Pharaoh and say, "Let my people go," and the Pharaoh says no, and there's a new plague, and then rinse and repeat. Like, that doesn't happen in this. He really only goes like once or twice. And it's
just like one after another.
Yeah, they build the plagues in this really interesting, like, cause and effect sort of way. Almost in a way that, like, it makes sense from an ecosystem perspective. Like, if you kill all of this animal, then the thing that feeds on that dies, and then that affects this, and the population of something else swells up. And I thought that was really interesting stuff. And again, like, the plagues are the fun part of the movie, and they're the fun part of the story, and the rest of it's just sort of a slog. Like, they walk through the desert, and they have trouble believing that this is going to work out. And there you go. So anyway, I would say that if you're up for an epic, if you like Christian Bale, check it out. I don't think it's up to a Ridley Scott standard. Like, I wouldn't say, if you'd show me this movie and not told me who the director was, I wouldn't say that it was a Ridley Scott film. Just because it doesn't quite have his sort of trademark art direction styling that I would expect in something. But it is really big and really epic. And we did see it in 2D, so I don't know if that makes a huge difference if, seeing it in 3D gives you.
I didn't know there was a 3D version on that.
Yeah, I think that, I'm pretty sure there's a 3D. So anyway, that's my thought. What did you think?
Swords and Sandals epic.
Yeah.
No, it's I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but like there's moments I liked, moments I really enjoyed. There's some visual flourishes that were really nice. There's nothing you can fault technically. The cinematography is nice, even a lot of the CG stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
What I didn't get much of a character impact, and it's a massive story. There's lots of things going on. There's sibling rivalry, there's slavery, there's like storytelling, there's a people that needs to be set free, and like there's a lot of deep stuff, but I didn't really like get an impactful feeling of it. It was more just kind of like we went from one scene to the next, and there was a lot of like filmy moments where they just added it in because, well, that's what you do with films. But you can't fault it for it's a good value for money movie because you're going to get your money's worth. There's a lot going on, and Christian Bale I thought was good. I was thinking Batman before I went in, and as is normal with Christian Bale, I immediately forget about his previous stuff because I get drawn into what he's doing right now, which is a credit to him as an actor, I think, anyway. So all in all, it's got flaws, but I'd say it's a flawed good film.
Yeah,
That's
I agree with that. Yeah, and Christian Bale, just to talk about him for a second, like he's definitely like the lead in the movie and the central figure and everything. I thought they did a really good job of showing different stages of his life. Like they made him look different. Like early in the film, he's kind of, his hair's kind of close cut and all that, and like then there's a part where he has like a really long, crazy beard.
Yeah,
and he's got kind of a short, crazy beard. And they really did a good job. Like every sort of 3 or 4 years worth of time in the movie, like he changes a little bit, he adapts a little bit. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, we're gonna get into spoilers now. So if you want to see the movie, and these aren't like, we're not going to spoil the biblical story because I'm sure you already know what that is. But to talk a little bit more about stuff that happens in the movie.
first thing. If you like horses, do not watch this movie. Do not watch it.
That one horse is in the trailer. That's just like running back and forth. Like
there's a lot worse that happened to horses.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. So I felt like the rest of the cast was kind of wasted.
Well, first of all, casting. So, I mean, Egypt, but like I found it quite. I personally wasn't put off because but it was kind of a strange melange of different like styles. We got Caucasian, we got people that actually look the part, and then we got like even I think the previous pharaoh was the guy from. Well, he's in lots of stuff, but I mostly know him from. Is that Mr. Deeds? I'm afraid you underestimated the sneakiness.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, John Turturro's been in lots of stuff, but he's like
he did fit.
He's like the creepy guy in the Transformers movies. And
right.
That kind of thing.
So, like, I just thought, there's lots of Caucasian actors playing these guys, which was like, I can totally look past that, but it must be, I thought surely they could have found more. I mean, Aaron Paul is playing an Egyptian, sure.
Well, it's funny because, like, Aaron Paul is probably...
Oh, actually, sorry, he's playing a Hebrew, but I mean...
Yeah, he's probably the most prominent, like, second in command, I guess, or the, like, person they show the most with Moses. Like, he's the one that's, like, watching Moses talk to nothing when he's talking to God and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that
acting-wise, it works. It's just...
Yeah. He plays...
There's an Egyptian with a Scottish accent at one point, and I was like, what?
Aaron Paul plays Joshua instead of Aaron, Moses' brother.
Right.
Moses has a brother named Aaron who's like a big part of the story and the biblical side of it. And I don't remember Joshua from the Bible, but I'm sure there is one, and there was one. Like there's some there's reasoning for all of those people to be there. Ben Kingsley shows up for a bit. Sigourney Weaver's the weirdest, I think, of all the casting.
Well, she was pretty featured in the trailer, and then she's pretty much not in the movie.
Like,
she's got like 2 scenes and probably like 30 seconds worth of screen time.
Yeah, and has almost no lines. And Noomi Rapace shows up for 10 seconds. That was his like sister.
Yeah, I couldn't quite place her, but now Prometheus.
Yeah. So like it's sort of like the Ridley Scott All-Stars version of Moses.
That's right.
There was like a really bizarre scene we were talking about before where the sharks just suddenly tear a horse apart like after the sea.
And there's tornadoes before that.
There's tornadoes. So the Sharknado is part of Exodus. I don't know really what else to say, like, because it's just really one of those things where it needs to be visually interesting.
Yeah.
And
it frequently was.
It frequently was until they left the Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And I felt like beside the parting of the sea, which really, I think the original, like the Ten Commandments that's a better scene. Like it's an older movie, but it's a better, more interesting.
More grandiose.
It feels bigger and more grandiose like that. And in this, like, the scene where like the mountain crumbled and everybody fell off the mountain.
See, that was a filmy moment. I figured like they just put that in because, hey, we can do that.
They did, and that actually I thought was cooler than what happened with the water. Because the water, you're just like, it's coming. Like, and it's coming, and it's coming, and oh my god, it's gonna come eventually.
Well, I thought it was cool, the meteor coming down, and like the build-up. I thought, oh, it's kind of like almost nervous, like what's like scary, because I've actually crossed at low tide when the tide was coming in. So maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary, you know. Nothing like that, but like so. But when it actually did happen, yeah, it was a bit of a, okay, now they're getting drowned.
Yeah.
I tell you what I did find cool. Like, the biblical story aside, was just looking at it as a little bit of a character study of, like, stubbornness and pride with the Pharaoh guy. Like, he played that well, and I just thought that was pretty interesting how even, like, he loved his family, he loved his son, and he almost kind of, like, was humble after that, but then he hardened back up again. Wasn't that the whole thing? Pharaoh hardened his heart?
No, and that happens.
And they showed that really well, like, just this hardened heart, and just that, like, his character I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Just like, he's just not gonna let go. He's like a...
I've seen versions of the story where like, they do it in a quick cut and it's completely ridiculous. It's like, fine, let them go. And then it quick cuts right back to the Pharaoh and he's like, we should never have let them go. It's like, what?
Well, this is a bit more
I guess this is a
thoughtful
30-minute version of Moses.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, that was the other thing that I will imagine people will have an opinion about one way or the other is the portrayal of God as a little boy.
Oh, yes. Now, he said something about being a messenger. Was that Moses was tired of being a messenger, or Moses was tired to talking to the little boy as a messenger?
Moses called him the messenger.
That's what I thought. So basically, it's God. He can take any form he wants. Why not a little boy? I get that. But why a creepy little petulant boy? That
I think that's one way of reading it. I think the other way of reading it is that it's not actually God, that it's just, like, whatever, an apparition, something that Moses sees that, you know, that isn't there. Because even when, like, the beginning, the first time he actually encounters God, it's the burning bush, and then there's, like, this kid there. You're like, okay. And, like, in the story, it's the burning bush that talks to him. It's not like...
Well,
God appears to him.
That's another filmy thing. Like, I get it as a story making, like a story tool that we can keep coming back to that. You can keep having these conversations, kind of like Fight Club, where, you know. But I don't know. It just kind of took away from the, like, I don't know. Just it didn't seem very godlike.
There was a scene at the end,
especially when the child was having his little tantrum scene. You know.
Yeah, he was like, he didn't seem very like
godlike.
Well, and I mean, maybe that's sort of a comment on Yahweh, because Yahweh's kind of like Mr. Temper Tantrum, like.
Well, yeah, the way it's portrayed sometimes. Yeah.
But like at the end of the movie, for some reason, he has like scars on his forehead, like he hit his head or something like that.
Who?
I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I didn't notice that.
The kid.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't figure out what that was supposed to mean, or if that was just like the actual kid like hurt himself before they shot that scene. And,
yeah. Like, I did notice one scene where the kid actually looked a little bit older, but I don't know if that was...
Yeah. And Moses' son, like, didn't it seem like they were gone longer than... Because the son looked like he was maybe a year older. But, like, it seemed like they were gone much longer than that, like...
Yeah.
Before they came back to find him.
I don't
know. Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not like... It's not like, you know, how close to the Bible was it, or how close to the Ten Commandments was it? Like, how good of a movie is it on its own?
Yeah, as a movie.
How does it stand on its own?
Yeah. Now, should we compare this to Noah that came out not too long ago? Given that, like, Noah is a much more...
So, yeah, we can. I mean, the Noah movie is much more, like, I mean, the simple way to say it is the movie's kind of batshit insane. Like, it just goes...
It took a much more artistic...
It goes its own direction.
Yeah.
You've got, like, rock monsters and things like that going on in there that's totally bizarre.
Yeah.
But I also felt like once you sort of settle into, like, this is their version of the story, like, if they called it something else...
Yeah.
If they'd called it, you know,
it would have been
Steve,
a fine film.
I think if they called it Steve, everybody would say, you're just telling the Noah story, but you're calling it Steve.
Right.
So why as well call it Noah?
Yeah.
And I think that I thought it was an interesting film for doing that. I thought it was an interesting movie to take those kind of risks on. And it's a much more like that's a movie that I would watch again. This one, like, I'd skip chapters, I'd skip scenes. Like, I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd watch the ending of it again.
Right.
You know.
Well, to me, it doesn't. It just kind of fades. I mean, the climactic moments, the sea coming in, and then it just kind of like, I don't know, just we got the tablet scene, I guess, but that seems almost unnecessary.
It does, and yeah, it's a hard. Like, that's a hard thing to figure out, is how to end that story, because there's not really a exciting conclusion.
They're trying to please. It's that filmy thing again of trying to please too many people. You know, it would have been cool to me if like they had literally faded to black on Pharaoh realizing part of his army had been destroyed, and that this is where his pride got him, kind of thing. That would have been a kind of cool spot to end it. But they had to wrap up the stuff with the family. Had to wrap up the. They're going into the desert, have a cool scene with tablets, and it just seemed really added on to me.
Yeah. And they needed to, I mean, they also needed to be like, we're 2 hours into this movie.
We gotta.
What's another 22 minutes?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
we've got to throw another 22 minutes on here to make it justified.
It's such a Hollywood thing. You've got to end it on an uptick, which is like, yeah, all right.
Which is kind of like, he's just sort of being carried and he's old and it's over.
Yeah.
Like,
but in doing that, it
right.
just fades out, It's just like, okay.
Yep.
Anywho, doesn't spoil the movie. It just kind of, doesn't, it's not memorable, the ending,
Yeah.
So. Anywho.
Yeah. And I couldn't think of any fun, like, Moses lines to do in the bad voice, but...
Well, that's another thing. There's, like, pretty much no humor in the movie, is there?
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right.
I mean, like, there's a couple of little there's smiles, but there's no jokey moments or anything.
Yeah.
Like, no lighthearted spots.
Yeah, it's deadly serious the whole time. But, yeah, it works. It's fine enough. So anyway, Exodus, Gods, and Kings. Check it out if it sounds good. If you like the way we do these reviews, please like the video, subscribe, and check out all the written and video reviews over at dalemaxfield.com. Thanks for watching.